Open your Bibles to Revelation chapter 19. I'm going to start this introduction by reading the scriptures in the book of Revelation concerning the lake of fire. Revelation chapter 19 verse 20 reads, "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast." This is probably a good time to review volume 1. You can do it chapter by chapter now on the website concerning the mark of the beast. "And them that worshipped his image, these both, the false prophet and the beast, were cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone." Brimstone is an old way of saying sulfur. God willing, I'll have more to say on sulfur in this part of the lake of fire teaching that I'll probably spend at least maybe a dozen messages on at this time. But I'll come back to that. So that's in verse 19, verse 20. Then you go to chapter 20, and let's read the verses there. Let's just read, starting with verse 14. "And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire." What is death and hell? This is the second death. So the lake of fire is the second death. "And whosoever was not found written in the book of life." There's all types of books that are mentioned in Scripture. Maybe I'll incorporate that also in this section of teaching. "And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." And go back up to verse 10. You also see a reference to the lake of fire. Let's read that verse. "And the devil that was deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone," or sulfur, "where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever." Now, the few that preach on these verses dwell on these particular verses and don't explore the rest of the scriptures, both Old and New Testament, concerning what leads up to this event, the lake of fire, punishment that's coming in the near future. I plan to incorporate a lot more than just these verses, but this is the starting point. This is the introduction. And I wrote down 10 questions. I'm going to read them to you. Can't get the paper to stick. 10 questions. A lot of people use their computer to make notes. I still am old school, I guess. I like to use good old-fashioned paper. So I decided, before we go any further into this teaching, I want to share with you the questions that I have. I have a lot more than 10. But I want to focus on the 10. Well, I might add some along the way, but in this teaching, this is what you're going to find. God willing, we'll see through God's Word the answers to these questions. You might want to write them down, or you go to the archives and listen to them over again, I guess. Question number 1. Remember, I teach on a timeline. And even though this timeline, most of it is towards the very end of time, as described in the scriptures, before a millennium period, whatever the length of that is, which we'll get to, if you know what to look for, what to search in the scriptures, what we should be looking for, and the clues that, believe it or not, are in the scriptures, that when it presents itself, and I got news for you, I will be here, you will be here, I believe, when it does. And I'll get to that. So it forms a timeline, another sign of His appearance, the second advent. We are to be watchers. And if there's information in the scriptures that informs us, this is one of the things we should be watching for. And like I said, most people never give it a second thought about the lake of fire because they don't expect to be in it. It won't affect them, so they don't think about it. Well, I'm telling you, you have to think about it, because it's another sign that we'll be able to perceive how close the end is, or how close is His return and the end is upon us. And you don't get that type of teaching, unfortunately. Hopefully, and I bet you anything, you'll see more and more of it shortly after this is done. But anyway, let's start with question number 1. Is the lake of fire presently in existence on this earth? I'll repeat. Is the lake of fire presently in existence on this earth? I bet you if you would poll Christians across every denomination, they would say no. Does it exist on earth in 2020? That's still question number 1. Question number 2. If it is, if it does exist as I am speaking right now, then could it be in a periodic quiet cycle and fire at this moment is not observed within it or surrounding it? Well, I don't want to just lead you on without answering at least one of these questions. I'll give you the very short answer. Is a lake of fire presently in existence on this earth in 2020? The very short answer, yes. And I know, I could feel it out there. Uh-oh, what is he talking about? There's no lake of fire anywhere. Don't be too sure. I'm used to that type of reaction. Just about every series that I've ever done, I get that kind of reaction. because you've been so indoctrinated with all the other stuff, or lack of it. You think these concepts, when you first hear it, are a little screwy. Well, go by my track record, is all I'm asking at this point. Don't turn me off too soon. If you're new, if you don't have any of the background like a lot of people have that have been around, or they've caught up on the archives in different series, I suggest that you do so. So the second question, if it is, then could it be in a periodic quiet cycle and fire is not observed within it? Question number 3. For those of you who are writing this down, will it once again awaken before the return of Jesus Christ? Good question. I think it is. Will it once again awaken before the return of Jesus Christ? You mean before Jesus comes back with all the saints? Is that the period you're talking about? Yep. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Before that happens, will the lake of fire awaken itself once again? Question number 4. Did this lake of fire that we read about in the book of Revelation spewed forth its brimstone or sulfur in the historical past? What do you mean by that? At certain times, when God chose to judge sinners, the wicked, for their ways, did he use a lake of fire? See, I'm trying to get your wheels spinning. And I can see everybody just trying to figure out where they're going to find all this information. Here, I'll use the Word of God and you'll see it verified over and over. And we'll get to a lot of these questions sooner than later. This is not going to be dragged along for years. I'm intending to wrap this up before summer's over, God willing. At least that's the plan. So, did this lake of fire spewed forth as brimstone in its historical past? And if it did, was there certain times when God chose to judge the wicked for their ways using a lake of fire? So that was actually questions 4 and 5. The fourth question was, did this lake of fire spew forth as brimstone in historical past? That was question number 4. And question number 5 is, was there certain times in the past when God chose to judge sinners for their wicked ways using a lake of fire? That was question number 5. Question number 6. Can you go to a certain location and see it with your own eyes? I repeat, can you go today to a certain location and see it with your own eyes? Time to turn our biblical detective hats on, or put them on. That's question number 6. Let's go to question number 7. Can you go to this location where it's at and experience any heat? You might have more questions than mine. I have more, like I said, more questions than 10. I was starting with this 10. But if you're interested in this part of the series, write your own questions and add it to these questions. Don't send them in yet, because I'm probably going to cover it anyway. I'm just giving you 10 for now. Number 8. Is there any scriptural or historical information that I can identify this lake of fire? I repeat, is there any scriptural or historical? And how many times I've used both secular history and the scriptures to verify something that the scriptures teaches us. So question number 8 is there any scriptural and historical information that I can identify this lake of fire? Question number 9. How long has this lake existed? And here's question number 10. Will the lake of fire last forever? And you're probably saying, of course it's going to last forever. That's what it says in the scriptures. Going back to chapter 20, verse 10, it reads, "And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever." That's what scriptures say. Are you sure? Are you sure that's what it says? Or does it say something different? And if it does, how could we know? That's all still part of question number 10. There's really only two options. 1, the lake of fire does exist forever and ever, or 2, it doesn't. And I'll tell you the reasons why I don't believe it lasts forever. Then what happens to the people, or the wicked, Satan, beast followers? Those people doesn't last forever. Questions that need to be answered. At least we need to try to answer them without straying too far away from the scriptures. In fact, I don't want to stray at all. Well, what we do know is that the lake of fire that we find here in the book of Revelation, once we could establish some type of timeline, is in our near future. We do know it's the place of judgment for the beast, the false prophet, Satan, and evil human beings and let me kind of classify what evil means in this case when it comes to human beings. Those who refuse to believe in the Son of God, Jesus Christ. That's how I want to begin this series. Just giving you some of the questions that I've written down. These are the first 10. And I'll add more questions along the way and then answer them too. But the thing is, I wanted to put down on paper so I can remember them all. Number one, to bring to you this evening to show you the direction I'm going with this section of the series. For instance, remember question number 3? Will it once again awaken before the return of Jesus Christ? If it does, don't you think that would be important to know? To be able to perceive it, because we have a 24/7 broadcasting satellite systems now that we can follow these things. If you know a certain location, where to look for an event like this. And if it does wake up from a periodical cycle of quietness, what does that tell us in these last days? He's around the corner. I don't know about you. That's exciting information for those who are still here. And we even know what the world will be like at that particular time. We'll probably be yelling out, "Come, Lord, come. Take me with you." Or does he? That's another question. It's not part of this list, but we'll get to that. So that's where I want to start. And we'll move on from this point, and I'll start answer these questions and many more that I have had, that I have researched, dug in the scriptures, put on my biblical detective hat, roll up my sleeves, and now I want to share it with you as part of another timeline of what is coming to our near future. If you're excited to know this type of information as I am, well, I'm excited for everything that I present to you. But I think there's going to be a certain different type of excitement because you just don't hear this anywhere. They don't teach it. Well, it's overdue. Just like the Eternal Rewards teaching, it's overdue. And now we're going to get to it. You got it? If you're interested, I want to hear from you. Play a song. And let me know.